All right. Thank you for joining us. I'm your host. You are listening to the Sons of Aries, a Red Rising podcast. With me, as always, is my fearless and faithful sidekick. What are we calling you today?
More like I'm Hodor. I'm just the
All right.
the creature in the back that I'm
Just
there for certain
holding
roles.
That damn
and then,
door. Holding that damn door.
That's me.
Today we've got a little bit different from our normal conversation, although we are going to be doing chapters 17 and 18 later tonight, so you'll have your normal fare soon enough. But tonight we are talking to Alicia. What do you want to be, Alicia and your real last name, or Alicia Fortune? Which one are we gonna go with?
I just go by Alicia Fortune on my online socials.
All right.
That is my middle name. So.
Is it really?
Yes.
What's the origin of that?
My great grandfather, he was named Tunstall Fortune Martin, and he went by Marty.
Oh,
what a character! I mean, truly, that sounds like a George R.R. Martin character.
And he went by Marty. And then so my mom, she was like, "Oh, I'm gonna name her middle name after Grandpa Martin," and so they thought I was gonna be Alicia Marty or Alicia Martin, but no, it's Fortune.
I gotta say, they picked the right one. That's way more badass. It's very, it's very cool. So first off, before we dive into what I really want to get to, tell us about yourself. How'd you get into the world of Red Rising, B, into Bookstagram and this kind of, I don't want to say weird world, but this new world to us to Charles and I of like book accounts and TikTok and all that. Just tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into all this.
Cool. Well, I've always been a lifelong reader. I've always been into fantasy, but when I was in my 20s, I kind of took a big hiatus from fantasy. I was reading more lit fic, thrillers, stuff like that. And so obviously, BookTok took, the internet by storm, and there was all of these books. And so we read a lot of those, me and my friend Sarah, and we kind of burned through them. And we were like, we had this 2-person book club, right? And it was her turn to pick. And she's like, I'm feeling like a Black Mirror, maybe sci-fi. And so, I'm researching, I'm looking them up, and I was like, I don't think this really fits, but maybe Red Rising. And so we picked Red Rising, and I liked it, but I didn't love it. I was like, this is good, but like it wasn't like life-changing for me, right? And so we read Golden Sun next, and I was like, okay, no, this is good. I immediately started into Morningstar, obviously, right? And then after finishing Morningstar, I was like, this is probably my top 3 favorite trilogies of all time. Like, it was really good. I was invested. I trusted the process, because his writing gets better every book.
Oh, yes.
And then what cemented this being like my favorite series of all time was definitely the later half of the story. Iron Gold, Dark Age, Lightbringer. I just think that it was absolutely fantastic. I get really excited about it, and I post about Red Rising a lot because that was really kind of my mission. Is when I wanted to create a book talk, I thought that there was a real market for this book for women who mostly read Romantasy. I really felt like it was a good segue because it has a lot of like the high emotional stakes, the drama. There is romance in there, and the romance in Red Rising is really good. And so that was kind of one of my I was like, oh, I can be a space that can kind of be a transition, right? From people are entering the fantasy genre via Romantasy, and then after you read some of the big ones that they have, and then kind of segueing. And so that's kind of been my mission, Red Rising, and then other books that kind of transition from, it's not so romance heavy, but there is some romance into like more like straight fantasy.
Off of that, so what is Romantasy? I see it all the time. I get loosely what it is. I get that it's kind of an amalgamation of the two genres and kind of but I feel like, and I don't know if I'm way off base here, and let me know if I am, but I feel like sci-fi and fantasy has always had romance. I mean,
right.
I came in 30 years ago, and Arwen and Aragorn were like the epitome of what I would hope to have as a romantic That obviously never going to happen, but like that's the coolest romance in history to me. So it feels like this new thing, but it's not new. Is that off
Right.
base or?
No, I totally so I have like a love-hate relationship with the romantasy term because I do find it's rooted in some sexism a little bit because we only have female fantasy authors. They get hit with this romantasy label,
Mm-hmm.
and even they do that even if it's just like there's a small romance subplot in there, you'll see influencers market it as romantasy. You'll see publishers, and it's really because that's where a lot of the money is right now, is that everyone wants to read a romantasy. And so it's being pushed out that way. But then it's really isolating readers who want to read more romance heavy stuff. They're reading these books and they're like, oh, that wasn't very romantic, or like that wasn't very what they were looking for. And then you have readers who would really enjoy the story who don't want to read just a more focused romance story. And so they're not even reading them. And so we have this huge market of just mainly women fantasy authors that are kind of getting overlooked. And so romantasy to me is frustrating. But then when you read a true romantasy book, like it's totally just a romance book in a fantasy setting, it's like obvious. Okay, yeah, no, that's a romantasy, right?
Okay.
And so it's hard because like there are books that fit into that genre that should be designated that way, especially for people who are trying to purchase a book, right? Because like there's hundreds of millions of thousands of books. And so you have readers and you want your readers to go into the right hands. So how do you market that? So romantasy is a good marketing tool, but it's also kind of hindering some other female fantasy authors, in my opinion.
I mean, I think that you and I kind of had a brief conversation on Instagram about this, kind of setting up this conversation on that basis that I feel like I see the word romantasy all the time, and it immediately makes me think whatever book cover I'm about to see after this post, on a story, I'm never going to read that book. And that's me being judgmental, but it just is because of the romantasy. It's so, you said something that I thought was really poignant and a great call out, is this idea of like fast fashion and how this is very much in
Right.
that same vein as like fast fiction. And I've flipped through some, and it is weird. It's like clearly a romance novel where they just put pointy ears on the guy and a tail on the girl, and it's like, well, it's fantasy now, so it falls into that realm. And
What
to
are these
me, it
books you're
seems like
reading?
it's just marketing. Well, I'm trying to expand my my reading, my shelf, my TBR, and I want to
Yeah.
find stuff that's both good and has a little bit more of a romantic angle to it. But is it wrong to run away from the romantasy stuff because it has the label, or is that me being a little bit of my nose up in the air, fantasy old school nerd?
Well, I think the issue is very nuanced. And so if we go back to romantasy and how it's been such a big craze, it has to start to do with the start of BookTok, right? It
Hmm.
has to do with the start of A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. Like that was the book, got millions of people into reading. And so you're not wrong that many fantasy books have romance in it and even descriptive scenes, right? So that's not really like something that's new to romantasy. But with Sarah J. Maas and being called romantic fantasy, and then we changed it to, we tagged it with romantasy, right? And so readers who just got into fantasy by reading A Court of Thorns and Roses, which is very romance heavy. I mean, it has a high epic fantasy, like there's lots of stuff going on, but a lot of the focus is being talked about like the characters' relationships. And so I would say that is a true romantasy, but even then, you can take the romance out of that story and the story still goes, you
Okay.
know? So I wouldn't even say it's a true, just like romance novel in a fantasy world, right? And so what happened is you have all these millions of readers and they want more, right? They want to read more like this. And so now it's a scramble. Everyone
Mm.
is trying to fill this market void. And what you're seeing is a lot of romance authors are trying their hand at fantasy, and fantasy has to be, bar none, the hardest genre to
Yeah.
write.
There's so
Like it
much
has to
depth.
be. Yeah, world building and magic and being immersive. Because when you're writing a romance book, like you don't have to be immersive in that way. Everyone knows what New York City looks like, or
Yep.
everyone knows what something looks like. So when you're writing a fantasy world and you're making up new religions, new cultures, new histories, new nations, new government systems, and even new magic systems. It's very complex. And so we're seeing people who are trying to fit this fantasy romantasy goal, right? And they're trying to get all this romance in it and hit all these plots like who did this to you and all these other things that people want to read, right? And the fantasy's kind of lacking. So that's where you're finding, like there is some fast fashion nature to it because they're trying to fill a void. But you can say that a lot for like when the Hunger Games came out, like how many dystopian novels with trials, not all of them were great. So I think it's just being amplified because it's being talked about more.
I mean,
right?
To your point, I think the lore, and I don't know how much of this is true or not, but the lore is that Red Rising was kind of intended to be a YA because the publishers were like, give us more of that dystopian YA, Hunger Games feel to it, and we'll publish this. And that was, 15 years or 10 years ago, whatever it was.
Peak Hunger Games.
Yeah,
time.
you're spot on. That makes total sense. One more thing before I would love to get a couple of recommendations of like where we should be, what should we be reading to make us explore or expand our fantasy library. But before that, and I don't know if you have the ability to speak on this in any way, but what the hell is alchemized?
Oh my gosh. Well, it was a fan fiction called Manacled, and the fan fiction was Harry lost the war against Voldemort, and so he died. And there's Hermione and Draco left, and it's really a brutal kind of tale. Like it's very bleak. It's almost like Handmaid's Tale and Harry Potter, and so like they have like a new government system, and so like that is what Alchemized is based off, as she wrote it as a fan fiction. And so I have not read Alchemized,
Okay.
but I hear that it's like a new fantasy world. There's some different characters. She deviates from, being so Hermione and Draco centered. So that's what it is.
Okay.
That's what it is.
I just see it all the time, and I have no idea, but everybody's talking about how it's their favorite book of 2025, and I know I knew that it was like it's in this realm of romantasy, fantasy kind of thing, and I have not been brave enough.
I would not call it a romantasy.
Okay.
I wouldn't. It does have a strong romance element into it, but I would say it's more like in the vein of like Empire of the Vampire kind of
Really?
romantasy.
Okay.
I mean, not in storytelling, but the amount of romance and how it's central to that story. For me, when I read the fan fiction, which I don't review, I've never read a fan fiction. That was my first one, and it was fine. It's 1,000 pages, and I was hoping that when she published it into Alchemized, that she would have taken care of some of the redundancy. But from what I've seen some of my friends, it's like pretty redundant too.
Okay.
So, but I don't know if I could recommend it to you, but I know that people like it. But it's like 800, 900 pages.
Yeah,
so
yeah. I mean,
journey.
it's a tome for sure.
Yeah,
well,
it's heavy.
I bet. Piggybacking off of that, what can you recommend? What do you recommend? If you give us three or four, like this is the best of this type of reading that you've experienced in the last year or couple.
Okay. I find that I really like women fantasy authors. Like that is my niche. It's really funny because Red Rising's my favorite series, but mostly I usually like women fantasy or women authored things. And so it's kind of funny that Darrow with Pierce Brown is kind of my favorite, right? I'm really into, I can pull it out too, The Raven Scholar. This one is super good.
Okay.
This is the first in a trilogy. There is trials into it. It's witty, it's fun. There's a romance subplot, but it's just a really unique fantasy tale, and I don't think that's like anything that you've ever read before.
Okay.
So that's all I'm gonna tell you about.
And that's the Raven Scholar.
Yes, by Antonia Hodgson.
Okay. I'm actually gonna write that down.
Well, I post about it a lot.
I've seen you definitely in some of your stories where you'll throw up like your top 10 or whatever, and this one as well.
Yep.
The City of Brass is excellent. It's so good. It's Middle Eastern inspiration. It's set in 18th century Cairo. Nahiri accidentally summons a jinn and she gets like transported to this magical land, and it's very politically nuanced, like politically nuanced book. It's really good. Every book in the trilogy gets better. And then I always recommend Jade City. I don't have it because I'm loaning it out to a friend, but I don't know if you guys read the Greenbone Saga.
No, but that's
No.
another one that I've seen in your
Yep.
stories for sure. That's
It's
a
like
trilogy as well, right?
yes, it's urban fantasy, but it's more focused on like the politics and family dynamic than it really is the magic system. And so sometimes people go in expecting a lot of magic. There is magic, but it's definitely not the central part of the story in terms of like using magic. But it's really good. Trilogy's really good. I really like this, Red City. I would say that this is not Romantasy, but it's closer to Romantasy than any of the other ones. This is an urban fantasy too. It follows two characters who were childhood friends, and they end up on opposite sides of rival crime syndicates, and
cool.
they are distributing this drug called sand that enhances the user's like, or not the user, well, I guess the user, it enhances their properties, it makes them better, smarter, whatever. And then they also have alchemy magic, but like it's under like no one knows about it except for those who know about it, right? It's like not known to normal people. So I really like this too. It was a new release this year.
Okay, cool. And that's Red City by
Marie Lu.
Marie Lu. Cool.
I don't know if it's going to be a trilogy or a 4-book saga, but one is out.
One is out. All right. Well, that's super helpful, and you've just made me spend more money. So
yeah,
the library.
That's a trend in this, as we've learned over the last couple months, that money flies out the door for these books, and you can't help it. You don't even realize you're doing it, and well, I don't realize it. My wife does.
I know. My husband was like, "How much do you think you spent on books this year?" And I was like, "I don't know. I don't keep
Don't ask. Yeah,
you can't take it with you, right? You know, it's not. It's burning a hole in your pocket, anyways.
Yeah, I got my first print, first edition Red Risings this year, and I got them off eBay, and I think I got a good deal for them. But Hunter, my husband, definitely was giving me some side eye.
That's a golf weekend for him, right? You just send him away, play golf for a weekend.
It's a little more than that.
Oh shit. Well, in that case,
yeah.
All right. So, question for you.
Okay.
What is your what is a buddy read? Because you're on you're on Bookbindery and you do buddy reads.
I'm on Fable.
Fable, okay.
So I do buddy reads on Fable. It's really cool. It's like a chat room almost. And so like you can select what book you want to do. And so if I'm doing Eye of the World, right? And then it has all of the chapters segregated into separate like discussion rooms.
Oh, cool.
And so people who are joining, if they got to chapter 15 and something crazy happened, they'd be like, "Oh my God." And then like I can make polls. You can respond to people. And it's just a really cool way to make community. And so I do have 3 Fable book clubs. So
and anybody can join, or is it like a Patreon kind of thing, or?
No, I don't have any paid things.
So you're just doing this for the love of the game, truly.
Well, honestly, I was not expecting this kind of response at all. When I started making TikToks, they were really bad. And I made mostly I made book reviews, book recs, and then like I would make like fun Red Rising videos, I'd get like trending sounds and stuff like that. So just the response that I've had, like Pierce Brown like recognizing me and like getting all these followers and people who trust my book recs is like it's still like not real to me. And so like I'm just posting my videos, like talking about the book. Yeah.
I love that. That's awesome. When you're doing book recs, do you ever find it difficult to be, and I'm not saying that you're not honest, but do you ever feel pressured to like say anything
one way or the other,
like gild the lily a bit and like say the book is better even if you don't like it?
This is something I feel very strong about. I'm very honest. I'm not a very good liar. at all. I feel that like when you have book influencers, and I do get sent stuff from publishers, and stuff like that. And so like you want to not upset publishers, but I do not feel that way at all.
Mm-hmm.
I really view reading books as such a time investment, a money investment, and so like I try to be as honest as I can about books, even to the point to where, like I didn't like Mistborn, and I will talk about how I didn't like Mistborn, and I get absolutely destroyed online every time I talk about why I didn't like Mistborn. So no, I always try to keep it very honest. A lot of indie authors reach out to me to send me their books so that I can read, and like I try to only respond to the indie authors that I know that or it sounds like something that I would like. But it is a hard line because I don't want to read a book, by an indie author that I didn't love. I probably just won't review it, right? Because like they don't have a whole team and production behind it. But no, I definitely do not feel like sugarcoating anything at all, ever. So
I mean, no, that's great because that's how
That's awesome.
that's probably part of the reason why you've kind of blown up is that people want to trust the source that they are going to, and if you're telling them what's what and giving them facts, then they're just going to come back. So that's smart. But I would assume it's got to be a fine line to walk. But
well, you don't want to like. There's only one book that I was like, this is like the worst thing I've ever read in my entire life, and I hated it so much. But I try to,
We'll have to know what that is.
objectively.
Yeah.
Silver Elite. Silver Elite.
Silver Elite.
Silver Elite.
Yes.
All right.
It was a dystopian romantasy that came out, and it doesn't have it's an anonymous author.
Okay.
And I think, and it took BookTok by storm. Everyone was talking about how this is the next Fourth Wing. It was so good, and it was not.
I mean, if the author is anonymous, that's like a tell.
That says something.
All I'm saying is that I am a teacher, and I see AI stuff all the time.
Oh.
Okay, yeah.
So that's all you're saying.
I'm not saying anything else.
Yeah.
I think we're picking up what you're putting down. Well, as a Red Rising centric podcaster, actually, we're pretty much focused solely on that.
Some would say that I am a Red Rising centric account.
I mean, it is, the bio is Red Rising #1 fan, right?
Listen, I did not dub myself that.
True. That's a sobriquet given to you by the man himself.
Right.
So I would wear that loud and proud. You need to get like t-shirts and buttons. That's branding.
I do have a t-shirt, but I try desperately not to be insufferable about that. Actually, every day it's a battle to not be just so annoying. But I just am like really, I like when I like something, I super like something. Like I was that annoying Harry Potter kid. And so if I was thinking like back in the day, like if someone would have told me that I was Harry Potter's #1 fan, I would have probably had a heart attack. And so like, it was so surreal. That was really cool. I'm sure he regrets it by now.
That is very cool. I totally agree with you. I can only imagine if like J.R.R. Tolkien had come over and been like, "You're my #1 fan, aren't you?"
Yeah.
I would have
cry.
that on my grave. I would be weeping all the time.
Yeah.
So what's your favorite book? Which of the current series is your favorite book?
Well, I could just give you my ranking.
Oh, please. Yes.
Yeah.
Number one, Lightbringer. Lightbringer is my favorite book of all time. So Lightbringer's #1. Number 2, Morningstar. Morningstar, that was a really good book for me. I love that one. 3 is Golden Sun. 4, Dark Age. 5, Iron Gold. 6, Red Rising.
It is fascinating. And Chuck, I don't know if you agree with me here, but it's the only series that I can think of where almost universally every fan has first book ranked last.
Sometimes I go back and forth between Iron Gold and Red Rising, but I think objectively, if we talk about like writing, I think that Iron Gold is ahead of Red Rising. I
would be interested to get Pierce Brown's, like I would bet you if he were being honest, he would say probably the poorest written of the series is Red Rising. It's the most derivative. It's the most like, he's learning as he's going. You can see it on the page.
Right.
I can't think of another series like that though.
His favorite book, he said, was Dark Age that he wrote.
That makes sense.
That's our favorite.
Yeah.
But it's so much pain. But trying to explain it to people I know, like my mother-in-law, my brother, my uncle, I got them all to jump into Red Rising, but trying to explain that first book with not crapping on it at the same time. But it's like, okay, if you love this book, you're going to love everything else, but you got to get through this first slog. And it's not that it's a slog, but it's ranked 6th on my chart as well. And it is what it is. I still love the series and grew and read all of them, but it is, to me, number 6.
I think the thing that was kind of jarring for me when I first read it is just that his writing was just a little too brisk. Like we were just like, we're here and then we're here and we're here. I think that in the second one, not only does the world expand and he gets better at writing, but also he has better characters in there too. Like he expands on the characters he has. The female characters are done way better. And so, I went back and reread Red Rising, and after had reading all of the series, right, and then reading it again, I was like, oh no, this book is a lot better than I remembered. I just think that at the time we weren't invested in Darrow's story and we weren't invested into these characters. And so that's what makes Red Rising good, but not phenomenal, right? And then once you start getting invested into these character stories, and then it's just like amazing.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think both Chuck and I, when we reread it for the first season of the show, on the second take, it was very much like, oh, I see what he's doing much better.
Yeah.
Because you're right, the pacing in the first book is so breakneck. You're just going from point A to point B to point C that you don't really sit in any of the moments to take in the view. And then going on that second read, you do get much more of the, he's painting with a lot of different colors here that I just didn't see.
And he leaves subtle hints here and there that you wouldn't have picked up at all. Unless you're doing the reread and you're like, oh, all right, shit, that makes sense there. And then it makes it that much more enjoyable for us breaking it down, finding these little Easter eggs.
I find a lot of people do like reading. A lot of women, like they read the first Red Rising and they're like, oh no, this is good, and then so I don't know if it's just like, I guess maybe a little bit. I don't know if it's YA. I'm pretty sensitive to the YA topic too, because like women get labeled YA more often than men, but also like I don't know if it would be YA, and it's just like a publishing tool, a marketing tool, so like there's no clear definition.
I kind of ranted and raved about that because the YA thing is totally just, in my opinion, a marketing thing, because this book from the jump, you have a pregnant woman being hanged. You have like illusion, or not even illusions, but straight up like sex slavery and murder. It seems very outside of what I would have pictured as YA when I was like 13. I can't. No,
YA doesn't necessarily mean that there's not dark things happening. YA usually means that the protagonist is younger, right? 16, 17, 18. Usually they are doing journeys of self and that self-identity. Usually the pace is very fast, and usually the world is less built up, and that there's like less vocabulary words, like, or lower vocabulary words. So that's usually like the qualifications of YA. So Red Rising does hit some of those markers. I would also say Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson was a total YA read for me, And so it's just interesting when you have male authors who do not get hit with that YA labeling, that if it was a female author would have totally been marketed YA for sure.
So that's totally interesting. I always thought YA just meant that it was marketed towards young adults. I didn't realize
that's part of it too.
Like I didn't realize there were like kind of criteria for it.
And like I said, that's just like in general, it's not a hard and fast rule, which that's romantasy too. Romantasy is not a hard and fast rule of what it is. And so we get these gray areas and we get these arguing about what is it not. And that's part of the fun, I think, with like genres, right? Especially in fantasy and in sci-fi. They're getting new and new subgenres all the time. And so people are constantly, it's Empire of Silence. Is that a sci-fi or is it a sci-fantasy? And so like, or is it a space opera? Like, what is it? And so it's part of the fun.
Yeah, I totally agree. One question for you. You mentioned characters a moment ago. Give me your favorite character. Who's the I was going to say Victra, but I don't know you well enough to be able to say it definitively. So who's your favorite character?
Darrow.
Darrow. Okay. All right.
I am a Darrow girly through and through.
Any particular reason or just because of the whole story of it?
Well, I in general like main characters, but Darrow is one of my favorite characters of all times. I think that I love all of his introspectiveness that he has, which sometimes people don't like. They don't like, they call him, whiny or too emotional. Yes. I love also that Pierce Brown was able to build up a badass character without it being kind of corny. At least to me it wasn't. And I really think that in the later half, when you have those multiple POVs and you get to see Darrow from other people's perspectives, I think that added to his myth so well. I love that Darrow is just like a lover boy at heart. He just wants to have a family, and then I love the duality of Darrow. Darrow does nothing wrong. I would support his wrongs if he had any.
So you're cool with Ganymede. It was totally necessary.
What was he supposed to do?
I agree with you. I agree with you, but we've been scorched by people over that take. So
honestly, that's another reason why I like Red Rising so much. I think all fantasy and sci-fi, obviously, they have ties to themes that in real world and stuff like that, but like he really got to show a side of war. Like war is not won by knights in shining armor that just do good all the time. Like Darrow is a character willing to do whatever it takes to win. And sometimes it's frustrating when you're reading like fantasy books and the good guys are like, no, we can't do that. We're not the bad guy. But the villain's gonna do it. So I love that Darrow has no qualms about getting his hands dirty and messing around. He does feel guilty. And
he does. Yeah, it does tear him up sometimes, and we have those awesome like internal monologues, and that's why I love Dark Age and Lightbringer, because it had the most of that. But it tears him up, but he still knows he has to do it, because if not, it'll happen to them worse.
And honestly, Darrow got created into being, this tool of war. And so we're now blaming him for doing what he was supposed to be doing. Dancer?
Yeah, all of that between Dancer later on just annoyed me, but made the story interesting.
So what do you think? Are we going to get Red God in 2026 or no?
I always want to be very clear before I answer this that I have no inside information. I have no idea. I know that he's still writing it, so I'm going to say no.
I think we all agree.
Likewise.
There. And I think in one of the discourses that we see a lot of that I find very irritating is I'm on there. I'm doing the Book of Lorne, so I see a lot of the messages in there, and it was wild how right off the bat people were like, "Oh, but tell him to start putting out Red God," or "When are we getting Red God?" Do you care about, how do you feel about people kind of getting all hot and bothered about, when is Red God coming?
I personally do not tolerate that in my space. People get, flamed, called pixies and whatnot if I see it, but I totally agree. Like, I cannot even imagine like having to end a 7-book saga that he's been writing for 10 years, and it has a lot of open storylines right now.
Yeah.
And he originally wrote it as a trilogy. I'm sure you guys know, and so he wrote it as a trilogy and then he added this on kind of later. I can't even imagine how he's trying to figure out how to ending, because it kind of already had an ending, right, in Morningstar. And so like you have to do something different. I'm sure he's still trying to figure out how to end it. I know when I went to a Q&A, someone had asked him, was Darrow, like, is the world better with Darrow doing his revolution, or not? And Pierce said that he's still trying to work through that and figure it out. Like, was it better for him to do that? Are people better off with breaking the chains and changing the hierarchy. And so I really like that there is a lot of complexity. So I think that 2027, I want to read Red God when Pierce Brown wants us to read Red God.
Yes.
I trust in him for it. And I also think that like we're just so used to something so instantaneous, and back to like this is why these books are getting pushed out so fast, but like real art takes time. And so if Pierce, I don't want him to, I would feel so bad for him if he pushed out a book that he wasn't like completely happy with to end his series that's his baby.
It's his
So
baby,
yeah. I think people are just really scared that it's going to be like a George R. R. Martin or what is his name, Patrick Rothfuss or something like that.
Yeah,
but like,
yeah.
but I think that I think he has to be close. It just might not be 2026 close. I think probably 2027 is more likely.
I think I agree, and I second you on everything you just said, because it drives me nuts when people get all excited about it. It's like, it's not going to be George R. R. Martin. George R. R. Martin's a 300-pound, 72-year-old man. He's never finishing those books, but that's okay too. Like it's art, like you said. It's done when it's done, when the artist is ready for you to consume it.
Right.
And speeding that up just because your instant gratification needs to be constantly fed, like that doesn't do anything for me. But with the talk of Red God there, I asked you to do a little exercise here. Were you able to do it? Did you think of anything?
Go ahead and we'll ask, and I'll see what I come up with.
All right. So give us three theories, two of which you think are going to happen, and one of which you don't think is going to happen. And then Chuck and I are going to try and decide which is the thing that you don't think is going to happen.
Oh, see, this is hard because I don't like to theorize about Red God, because I have so many people who will say like, oh, if Darrow doesn't die, it's not going to be a good ending. Like, how can he end this series if Darrow doesn't die? I'm like, why are we setting ourselves up for scenarios that you're going to be unhappy with if something doesn't happen? But I will think. Okay.
How about this? How about we take a different tack? What give us just a couple of storylines that you would like to see ended, and how, or not specifically. You don't have to get into the weeds on details, but like,
and we can do spoilers, right? Spoilers.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. And also to those fans of yours that are afraid that Darrow might die, I got to be honest with them. I don't think our boy's getting through this, but that's just my theory, and I don't think that that's a bad thing or a good thing. I think we'll see what it is when it is.
I make the series taking Darrow on his Make-A-Wish tour, right? I really do. I do think Darrow is going to survive. I really do. But a storyline I want to see, like if I'm Pierce Brown and I'm writing the story to like make Alicia happy, I want to see Darrow, Mustang, and Pax just freaking be happy. Just let them be happy.
At the beach, under an umbrella, on a beach towel,
riding the grab bikes.
Listen to this. I told Pierce that to his face, and you know what he said to me?
Good luck.
He said no.
Yeah, just no. All right.
Yeah. So
no sugarcoating that.
He's just. I think he's just funny. I'm hoping, but I would love to see. I would like to see a reunion with Victra and Severo and Mustang. I want him to at least please just let him see him. I would love to see frickin' Cassius's mom off Lysander, even more than Darrow. I would love to see that.
That would be. I have not heard that one yet. That would be really interesting. No. I can see that being one of those sneaky little, written in a way that, like we were saying earlier, if you go back and reread Red God, all the little breadcrumbs are there for it to happen, and then that's an interesting one. Where do you stand on Lysander? There's so much vitriol and anger. If anybody says that anything other than he deserves a bullet in the back of his head, are you one of the folks that are just beyond angry and hateful of Lysander?
Yeah, little bitch.
That's pretty definitive.
Yeah.
He's just he's like that person that you went to high school with that like maybe some bad things happen to him, but he's like the really rich kid and he doesn't really have to struggle that much. You're just like, oh, poor baby rich kid,
Hmm.
And then he just feels like he's so self-righteous on things, and I just want to reach into the page and strangle him.
I don't blame you. I mean, anybody after Hangar 17B that doesn't feel somewhat like that, they don't have a heart.
No, even in Iron Gold, I was like over this dude, like he's so pretentious. And just like him, I do feel bad for him in some ways, kind of, but like I think he's selfish and he thinks that he has such a selfless, mission. And I just think he's really just kind of inherently selfish. And I think he's the best written character for sure. And I think that he is a good character, and that's why we all hate him so much. So.
I think that's really the right angle. Is like the reason people hate him was so much like visceral. They get really angry about Lysander is probably because he's the best written character in the whole series. Like he's somebody that Brown has clearly decided like, oh, I'm going to pour as much of my literary genius into this character to really bring him off the page in a way that makes people feel like they wouldn't piss on him to put him out if he was on fire. That's like the legitimate anger they have.
I think Pierce likes Lysander.
I think so too.
I think so too. We spoke about it. Yeah.
He writes him in a way that like you could only do this if you had a actual like he likes that character a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. He does. I think he also said in that Q&A that he feels like if he had to be a character, he'd be most like Roke. So interesting.
Very interesting.
Another thing I would like to see in Red God is I want to see more Apollonius page time. Every time that dude's on the page, I'm like, here we go. What is this dude gonna say?
It's entertaining. Yeah.
He's just the way he talks about stuff, and he's just like, how great it is to be wrong, or something like, he's just crazy.
And we haven't really seen him go full like. I want to see an actual razor duel with Darrow at full strength. Something like the Volsung Fa battle between
the Breath of Stone. Oh, no.
Yeah. I feel like that I could have somebody else kill off Apollonius if he has to die.
Yeah. I mean, it's whether it's Diomedes or Darrow, I just want to see Apollonius in his full glory.
I wanted to see Diomedes and Darrow duke it out. I want that, but it's not going to happen in Red God. But I was hoping that we got to see that.
That's actually a really good one. I don't know. Yeah. Maybe who knows? Maybe it'll happen. Maybe we'll see it.
Yep.
He's such a good character too. Really, I think that Pierce kind of poised him to fill Cassius's literary role, kind of, and so I'm excited for that one.
Yeah, he's got him primed to fill that that kind of caring, poetic soldier, stoic, but believer, like a true convert to the cause, but maybe even more, real about it than Cassius. But all right, well, I want to be respectful of your time, and I don't want to steal the rest of your Thursday night. So, where can people find your stuff? What do you have coming up? Is there anything that people should be on the lookout in terms of what you've got going on? And go ahead and just plug your stuff for a minute.
No plans for anything crazy. Just, keep posting all my stuff. I am hoping to get some author interviews this year, so we'll see who we get. Yep.
Cool.
All of my social media is at Alicia Fortune Reads. I have TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Fable, Bindery, probably more. I don't know. All those things.
There's just so damn many. It's hard to keep track.
I know. How do you choose?
It's fun. It's fun. But thank you so much for having me. I've been hoping that you guys were asking me because I love to talk about Red Rising, and so I'm like.
Well, hey, it's an open door for you. So anytime we're headed towards a chapter that you want to talk about, whether it's in Golden Sun, Morning Star, or when we get to the other books, if you've got a particular chapter that you really love and want to talk about, you just flag it for us and we'll make sure you get the invite when we get there.
Cool. Well, I love Morningstar when they go to Jupiter and they have that meeting with the poet. And
All right.
Romula.
You're in the book, so we will bring you back when we get there in a few months. All right, Alicia. Again, thank you very much for taking the time to talk with us. And that's at Alicia Fortune Reads on all the social medias. So, all right, we'll talk to you soon. Bye now.
All right. Bye.